Hello everyone, Ceri the Crafter here, that's C-E-R-I the Crafter, and I'm here with February's Colour Combination Challenge. Now the Colour Combination Challenge is actually part of a Facebook group called Makers of Mixed Media Art and Artists Group. I always try to link it and I'm not very successful, so I will try once again to put it in the description box below the video. If it doesn't work, please just go to Facebook and search Makers of Mixed Media Art and Artists. It's run by PM Artist Studio, who I designed for. So this colour combination this month is, the requested colours are Prussian Blue and Yellow. Now this Prussian Blue for me is Prussian Blue Hue. It's the only one I've got, and the yellows weren't specific, so I picked out a couple of yellows. You're allowed to add black, which I'm not sure I'm going to, but I'll keep it out anyway. You're allowed to add white, and then you're allowed to add a metallic. Now I'm not sure whether I'm going to go with iridescent copper or whether I'm going to go with deep gold, so we'll make that decision a little bit later on. I have a kind of secondary request of one of my subscribers as well, called Annie. Annie, I haven't written down your last name, I'm sorry, but actually it's probably fine with you. You know who you are. Annie has asked, can I create a background not using any stencils? Not a problem at all. Let's do that, shall we? Now, I'm obviously using a bit of recycled 12 by 12 cardstock. It's what I like to do. I've got a lot of cardstock that's 12 by 12, so I poured in pads that, to be honest with you, I bought them because they were on sale, ended up not liking them, and I'm not one to waste stuff. So in my challenges, I tend to use backgrounds and then reinvent them. So I've chosen something that's got very light colours on it because obviously Prussian blue and black on a dark background is going to be pointless. So I'm starting with a light background. I've also over there, which you can't see, I pulled out a whole load of mark making stuff, which we'll play with. I've got my ceramic tile here, which you know as I use a palette. I've got a store card and I've got some sponges. And I think that's about it, really. We need to just get on with this. Now, I want to put some colours down. I think I want to start by putting some yellows into the background. And I've got this pale lemon colour. Now, I'm not going to remember to name all of the colours as I go along, but hopefully you'll be able to catch them as they flick past your screen, should we say. You can always pause and have a look. So the colour combination challenge was something that started in 2022 because it was requested by my subscribers. They wanted certain colour combinations, see if they worked, and it sort of picked up momentum, to be honest. Right, all I'm doing is I'm just using my store card just to scrape some colour on here. So I'm getting away from the white and I'm just giving myself some interest on the background, just so I will have to eventually cover up the snowflakes because this isn't a Christmas background, so wait, it's a Christmas one to start with. So yes, it sort of took traction. Lots of people enjoyed me doing it and then started joining in and doing it themselves, which of course I was more than happy about. It's lovely to see what people do with different colours. Also, it helps us learn our colour theory or learn to use colour combinations that, well, some of them I certainly wouldn't have chosen to use, but I was very pleasantly surprised by them. And I think that goes for a lot of us doing this challenge. It's just trying something new. We've all got those colours in our paint box or our pencil box, or, I mean, whatever you choose to be using. I mean, I'm using acrylic paints. You could be doing this colour challenge, and what you could be using is maybe you're using fabrics, maybe you're using ceramics, maybe you're using stained glass. It's whatever you want it to be. Right, as always, the reason I have my messy mat down is because it gets messy. Right, I want a little bit more of that dark yellow in there. The dark yellow was actually cadmium yellow deep hue. It was a colour I haven't long ago discovered as a replacement for my sunflower yellow from Arteza, which sadly is running out, and it was one of my favourites. Right, so I've got some colour on there, literally just putting colour down, getting it sorted. I need to give this a quick wipe. Now, I tend not to use baby wipes. I buy 2 of these face cloths. I haven't learnt my lesson. I always buy white face gloss from my dollar store, pound store, and I get them for 50p each, and they last me a year. Well, it could probably last me longer than a year if I really chose to. And they get stained and they get dirty, but they go in my laundry maybe once every 6 weeks, so I don't mind, because you know what? They're a bit of equipment, and I would rather do that and use those for a year than go through a couple of packets of wet wipes or wet ones, which firstly will cost me more money, and secondly, I'm doing a little bit that I can for the planet, and that's the best I can do at the moment. So right, cleaning my ceramic tile off. I use the ceramic tile because for me it's just the perfect palette. I bought this in a sale aisle in my local hardware store, and I've had this a couple of years now, and I've got another one, and I don't need to buy any of those paint palettes. Right, let's stop chewing on about this and actually what we're doing. So I've got a background. It's one of the colours. Now what I normally do is, when I'm creating a background, I'll normally put the requested colours into the background, maybe a little bit lighter, maybe a little bit darker by adding black or white to them, and then as they get pushed further and further into the background, when it comes to the final detailing, which is where the two colours should be featured, I then reintroduce them again, but it gives it layers and layers of depth. So I'm just going to bring in this Prussian Blue hue. Now it's quite a powerful colour, so I'm going to put a little bit of white with it. Just pick it up, and I'm going to come in and I'm just going to put little bits. Now what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to keep my card as flat-ish as I can, because I want this smearing effect more than anything else, because I like the texture that this is giving me here. I'm going to come around and try and smear it in the opposite direction, so I do have something that goes off the page. Now I don't really have a game plan for how I want this to look, but I've got a few elements I do want to put onto this. So I'm going to come in with some of the white. Sorry, spinning this around hopefully isn't making you feel ill. And I'm going to drag the white up through it. And again, just clean off. Now, I've been quite vertical in this, and that was intentional. I want this this colour to be in that direction. Right, I think, let's take a little bit of that off there. Okay, I'm okay with that. Now, the stuff that's left on the ceramic tile doesn't get thrown away. The drying time of acrylic paint on my ceramic tile here in Wales is quite extensive. I mean, it's not going to dry out in the time it takes to make this video. However, if I am concerned, I can always just lay a slightly damp cloth over the top, or even just spritz it with a little bit of water, and that will actually help prolong the life of it, so don't waste it, because after I finish filming, I'll then use it up. I'll put it on some backgrounds of maybe postcards or ATCs, so I don't waste stuff. So if you see paint sitting there, don't worry, it's not going to waste. It's going to be used sooner or later. So I've got that in the background, and it is background still. That's my prime objective here. It is a background. Now at this point, I'm going to try and make a decision about this. Now, if I look at this Amsterdam Deep Gold, it's almost the same colour of the yellow, and I don't think it's going to be giving me a punch of anything. So I think I am going to go with the iridescent copper on this background. So this can go back into my paint box of acrylics, and we'll deal with that later. So I want to come in now and I want to start adding interest into the background. It may end up being covered up, but I do want some sort of interest in the background from the get-go. So I pulled in, these are some, well, like centres of cash register rolls, centres of tape rolls, things like that. And I'm just going to come in and I'm going to put a few circles in one of the colours, which is the Prussian blue. Now I'm dabbing it down, hopefully you can see that. I think you can. Dabbing it down so it's almost off, and I'm just pressing it into the paper. I don't want this to be a dominant feature, but I would like just to add little bits of interest. I mean, as anyone who's watched me knows, I do like the odd circle. So, right, let's pop one over there. I don't know why I choose where I choose. Let's give this a turn. And funny, I find if I turn a project as I'm working on it, it makes it more obvious to me as to where things should be. So just going to use a bit of kitchen paper, kitchen towel, however you know it, and I'm going to take that off, the excess off there, or it builds up and it gets really, really clumpy. Right, let's take that bit out of there. So that's just put something into the background. Now, during the course of making this, I am going to have to stop periodically to actually get a hairdryer on this to dry it so I can actually move on. Because if you look, for example, here, there's a bit of a build-up of paint from doing the stamping with the cardboard tube. That's fine, I like that, but I don't want that sticking to other things as I go along. Right. I think I'm going to use this one, actually. Just because I pulled them out doesn't mean they all have to be used. I'm going to have some white acrylic paint down. And I'm going to pick up white this time. And I'm turning the cardboard tube as I dab it in to get a good coating on this. And I'm just going to put a few of these in. Now, I'm thinking this is going to look very bright and fresh. It is February. I could have gone down the route of Halloween, not Halloween, that's a slip of the tongue, isn't it? I could have gone down the route of doing Valentine's, but I'm not really a lover of Valentine's. For no other reason than it's just, it doesn't work for me. So, do I need another one? See, if I turn it, it sometimes lets me know where it needs it. And I think there's one more bit over there, I think. I need to be aware I can still see snowflakes through here. That's probably going to disappear quite shortly, but I do want to know that they're there. Right, again, I'm just wiping the excess off. I don't mind a slight build-up of paint, because that build-up of paint will give me texture in the future. However, I don't necessarily want it all over the place and built up to the point where I don't use it. Right, this little bit of white here, it's not a bad thing, because I can always use white on this. So, right, let's have a look at this now. I think I want to dry this because there's quite build-ups on some of these areas. Quite a build-up, should I say, on some of those areas, and I don't really want to destroy it. Now, if I think there's another colour that would work or enhance this, I can grab it if I really choose to, because at the end of the day, this is a challenge, it's not a competition. If you want to add another colour to it, like my instinct would be, because we've got yellows and blues, that purple would look really good on here, or maybe a magenta. So feel free to add an extra colour if you feel that it needs it. However, the dominant final colours should be the two that are requested, the yellow and the Prussian blue. So, right, I think I am going to pause you. I'm going to hit this with the hairdryer, just so it's dried off, and then we'll look at what other things I'm going to put into this. So here I am back again, a couple of minutes with a hairdryer. I would say those are probably dried or at least skinned over, so I don't want to touch them just yet. But as I was drying it, I decided that I know what I want to do here. So I'm just going to get a sponge. Now this was from packaging, this sponge, but I use car wash sponges, baby wash sponges, any inexpensive sponges that I can find, and I cut them up into cubes. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the white acrylic paint and I'm going to go around the edge here to get rid of this snowflake pattern. I was thinking, do I go dark? Do I not go dark? And I actually don't want to go dark. I don't mind that some of it is seen, because it'll be so subtle it's not going to be a predominant feature. So I'm just going to bring in a little bit more white acrylic paint. There you go. And the sponging technique means it goes on quite thinly. But as you can see, it actually does give you a texture as well, which I really like that. So just knocking that snowflake design back into the background a little bit, because we've got a few layers left to go on this yet. So I'm not worried about that. I just don't want to have to deal with the snowflakes at the end of this video and go, oh, I didn't get them covered. This way I've got the majority of them done. So this especially down here is quite a dominant area, but as you can see, as I'm putting layers over the circles, it's pushing them into the background, which gives it a lot more interest. And I think I might come in, and where I've got harsh edges like that, I might just come in just to do little patches of white to bring that into something that's a little more subtle. I don't want the lines that I've created to dominate the feature, because I'm going to be using lines later on. I know, because of the stuff I've pulled out. So I just want to control it just a little bit more. I think that's all of the snowflakes gone. There's a bit up here that could really do with disappearing on me. So, okay, I think that's okay. Let's see another snowflake there. So I've just basically knocked that into background. Now, I could stop there. I mean, I think that's quite cute, to be honest. That's a nice, fresh looking background. Looks quite nautical to me, but that's fine. It wasn't intended, but it could easily be nautical. So I want to come in now and I want to start adding a little bit more detail. And I'm not sure really what I want to add it with, as in paint-wise. I think it's time I introduce some of this, to be honest. Now, I'm a little torn as to what to use. So just looking over there a second at my supplies, I think I'm going to come in, right, with the ice cube tray. This was an ice cube tray I picked up for £1. It's got silicone bottoms on it, and it gives some really interesting detail. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put some of the iridescent copper on my plate. I'm just going to smear it out with the back of my plastic card, and I'm going to pick it up. Now, I know this doesn't give me perfect circles, as you can see. It'll give me areas of interest, and I'm just going to come in and touch it down. This also helps me realize how intense the copper is or not. So a little bit down here. You may notice I'm breaking it up so it's not always the same combination of circles. I'll put a little bit in there, I think. Maybe I'll put 2 down there and do a little bit of a clean up over here with the last 3. Okay, that's, oh, I've got a little bit on here. I think I'm just going to use it up on this corner. So there you go. Right, we've got that on the go. Going to put this by now. Do I clean this? No, because the build-up of paint on here gives me extra texture. Right, let's scrape all of this copper into one neat pile. Hopefully I'm still in shot for that. And then have a little clean up what we think. So we've got some really nice work here. Because of the silicone base on the ice cube tray, when you lift it up, let's see if I can show you, it tends to pucker and it pulls the paint up with it. It's a really interesting effect, and I like that a lot. So that's one of the reasons you'll see me use it quite often. You will also note I'm not using bubble wrap in this one, because I think I use bubble wrap in nearly every one of my backgrounds, and I'm like, Ceri, you need to pull back on that one a little bit, kid. You're using bubble wrap far too much. Right. Let's have a little bit of a think here. I wanted to put a touch of black in here, but I didn't want a huge amount of black in here. And I'm thinking the idea I've got, it should be for one of the upper layers. I'd quite like to put some more of that pale lemon in. Right, I'm going to once again grab the, what's called pale lemon. There you go. I'm just going to put a bit on my palette, because now I'm looking at this, I'm thinking these areas are a bit too dominant and I want to take them back. So I'm just using the sponging technique with the pale yellow. Now what the pale yellow will do over the Prussian is give you a sort of feel of a green, because obviously you've got to remember your color combinations. So if you put blue and yellow together, yep, you get green. So, and even if you're not mixing them together, because this yellow is not a solid transparent, I am likely to see hints of green as I do this. Does that bother me? No, I'm actually enjoying it. What I'm not doing, however, is touching any of the copper that I've just put on, because I don't want to pick that up and move it around and contaminate other parts of this background. And then maybe I'm going to have to do a little stop for the hairdryer again, just so that I can get all of that copper dried off. Hopefully I'm in shot. I am in shot. Get all of that copper dried off so then I can go on to the next part. Breaking that up just a little bit more. But by having the Prussian blue in the background, I've made the final design more coherent, because it's not something that's just stuck plopped on top. So let's do a little bit more of that, because there's a couple of areas I still want to knock into the background. Now, I do tend to talk about push and pull within a design, and what I mean about that is if you put something on a page and then you put something over it, you push things into the background. If you then put a contrast on top, you will probably pull that colour back into the foreground when someone looks at it. And that's what I'm thinking that I'm doing here, is because you can see the pale yellow is pushing these circles into the background. It's pushing the white into the background. But the moment I reintroduce the dark, I'm in Prussian blue. If when I get to adding the Prussian blue in the final sections, then what you'll find is it will draw the eye and pull it all back forward again. So, right, I think I'm happy with that. Yep, I'm happy with that. Right, okay, going to stop for 2 seconds. I'll do a transition thingy for you. It'll probably take me a couple of minutes to dry this totally, and then we can go on with the next bit. So see you in a second or two, guys. So back again, not 100% dry, but it's certainly dry to the touch. I'm okay with that. So I now want to come in and I want to use some black on this, because I want to start adding some drama to it. Because who doesn't like a touch of drama? Now what I'm going to do is, because I'm trying to use tools and equipment that I've got around me, I'm going to use, I've got a plastic ruler now. It says shatterproof, and it's really flexible. You could do the same thing as I'm going to do with a piece of cardboard or a bit of plastic packaging or something. So just know that I'm using a ruler. You don't have to. So I'm going to come in and I put black acrylic paint onto my sponge. I'm going to come in and I'm going to dab it all the way along the edge of my ruler. Now, you're probably asking, why isn't he just dipping the ruler into the paint? The reason being, because it will get really clumpy. Now, because it's a flexible ruler, I'm just going to tap this down and see, I will get interesting designs. And that's what I'm looking for. I just want to give this a bit more of a contemporary feel. So, not trying to mirror anything. I quite like the fact that it flicks when I take it off, and it leaves behind little, I don't want to say smear marks, because they're not smear marks. It's almost a bit like one of those neographic, it is neographic, isn't it? Art pieces in this moment. So just coming in, as I said, this could be a bit of craft card. I don't think you could do this with paper. I think that would be a little bit difficult with paper because it's not going to be strong enough. Maybe just, oh, nice bit of sunshine. Yay, that's welcome in these winter months, I can assure you. Now, as soon as you've finished using your ruler, obviously, throw it into a bowl of water. Or maybe even just give it a wipe, which is possibly what I'm going to have to do. I think I will go one more there. And maybe just give it a bit more across the corner. Not every line has to curve, but I'm liking the feel of that. There you go. A little bit of hair stuck on there. Yep, not needed. Right, so quick, I'm going to just wipe this down with my cloth or I will never be able to use the ruler again. Basically, I'm taking the paint off it so I don't have a build-up. Now, you could do this with a metal ruler. I know some of those metallic rulers are quite flexible as well. So just look around at what you've got. So I'm already loving that. I think we're quite a way towards finishing this. Now, I'm going to leave that black, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn my ceramic tile around so that I've got a cleaner area here. Right. Think, Griffiths. So I've got lots of circles on here, so there's more of a circle theme. I quite like those lines going through it. That's also really interesting to me. I was going to put some straight lines on here. I don't think I am now. I can see the yellow, but I think what I want to do is put a little more yellow onto this. And I think I'm going to use the brighter yellow, this cadmium hue. So what I'm going to do is put a little bit of that out. Don't need a huge amount. I don't want masses of this colour because it'll just totally dominate this. I just want bits. I've got myself a piece of kitchen foil. Now, I'm going to turn around so this isn't directly in the microphone. I've scrunched it up and I'm going to unscrunch it a little bit just so I'm looking for the textures that it's got on there. Now I'm loosening this back up. I don't mind if it tears and rips. And then I'm just going to come in so I get an interesting part, and I'm going to use this to stamp with. So because I'd want it a little bit flatter, I'm just going to press it down, just making sure I've got something of interest. Now, I'm not supposed to be using stencils, so what I did is I made a couple of paper pieces. This is just copier paper. Oh, I've got two stuck there. Okay, let's get rid of that one. I've got copier paper here. Now what I did was I used a die to cut the circles. You could easily do this with a craft knife or a scissors. So I've got circles and I've got squares. I think I'm going to go with squares because I was unsure what I was going to be looking for. Let's put the circles to one side for another day. Now I'm probably going to use this size here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in and I'm going to use this as both a stencil to stencil a pattern through, and I'm using it as a mask to mask off the background. So I'm going to come in, I'm going to dab in and out of the paint with this, and then I'm going to come in and I just want subtlety. And what this will do is it will add a design down that's on the tin foil, but what it will do is just give me patches of it, so I haven't got big squares of it, but I've contained it within a field, should we say. As I said, I didn't want a lot of this colour because there's some of it in the background and I wanted to make sure that I wasn't dominating things. So you can see I'm not really getting a square, and that's actually planned. I don't really want a square, but a square was better for me than using the round because I've got so many circles on here already. If I did happen to catch an edge of this paper and it gave me a circle, it would probably be a bit too many circles. So just working my way across here, just using up what's on my palette. Oh, it's looking like a lovely day out there. I hate to sound domestic, but I think I need to put washing out. Right, am I okay? A little bit down here, maybe just coming off, just to use up the remainder of what's on there. So this is a technique you can do with any shape whatsoever. I must admit, when I was considering what I was going to do, I nearly cut some heart shapes out of paper and did this with heart shapes, but I thought, you know, Ceri, be true to yourself. You're not really a fan of Valentine's Day, so don't do it, which I didn't. So, right, I've got that on there. This does need cleaning up, so let me get some kitchen towel, because there's no way that's going to stay perfect for me. So right, I've got the yellow on there. I've got the blue in the background. So I need to add a little bit of this into the foreground. Now, I want it to be quite subtle. I was going to do lines because I was going to use my corrugated cardboard, but I'm not now. I could use circles, but I think there's more than enough circles on there. I think I'm going to go back to one of my favourites, to be honest. I'm going to come in with this bit of plastic grid. Now, I did ask in one of my previous videos if anyone knew what this was for. Apparently, this was very big in the 70s and 80s. And what people would do is they would cut it into pieces and then they could stitch through it with, say, wool or embroidery thread and make three-dimensional pieces. And now someone has told me, I remember them. There you go. Thank you for all that information, guys. So yes, so this is what this is originally from. And I'd forgotten it. So I'm just going to put some of the Prussian down. Not a lot of it. Let's put it back with the other paints. I'm going to smear it out like I have my other paints, because that way I've got a thinner covering on it to pull up. And I'm just going to touch it down and come in. And where there's areas that I don't think there's a lot on, I'm just going to come in and touch these over the paler yellow. Oh, my finger's cracked then. Again, I don't need this to be a dominant feature. I am concentrating on the up and down though. It would really bother me if it was on an angle. That's a personal thing. That's not a hard and fast rule. That's just me liking things vertical and horizontal. I think I want a little bit down there, so I'm going to come in just with the edge of this. See if I can put a bit down the edge there. And I think I might do the same here, to be honest. You can buy this stuff in shapes, by the way. I've never seen the reason why I do that. I just basically like this as it is. I think that's pretty much done. I can just see little tiny areas where I'd like to add a subtle hint of. That was so subtle it wasn't even there. Come on. There you go, that'll do. Why are you not printing on there? There you go. Right, I think that's as much as I'll do. Right, and what I normally do with this is I turn it over and I just give it a wipe with the damp cloth, and then I turn it over and give it a wipe from a damp cloth on the other side, so that if I didn't do that, eventually these holes could potentially close up. And I like this. I'm not going to buy this again. I paid for it in the first place. It's going to last the whole of my lifetime as far as being creative. So, I'm liking it. I'm going to leave that for a second because I think we're almost done. So, have I met the brief? We've got Prussian blue. I've got it there. I've got it in the background. Tick. I've used yellow. I can see I've got the pale yellow. I've got the dark yellow. That's a tick. I've used white. We can see it on the circles. I've used black on the lines. And I ended up using the iridescent copper, which gave me the metallic. Now, you don't need to use exactly those colours, guys. What you do need to do the challenge, however, is the Prussian blue and a yellow need to be the dominant colours in the design. That's as dominant as it's going to get. I'm looking at this thinking there's anything else I want to do. I'm not overly sure that there is. These patches here, they're nice, but there's something about them I'm not liking. Right, I think I just want to add a little white into those. So I'm going to bring in some white paint. This seriously needs to clean up this lid. To do that when I turn you guys off. I'm going to smear that out just a bit with my store card. Now I've got a bundle of earbuds here. I call them cotton wool buds, don't know what you call them. And I've just put some tape around the middle. As you can see, I've used them before. And I'm just going to dip them into my paint. I'm just going to add little patches of dots. Now if you don't have bubble wrap, this is another way of just adding little subtle touches of detail here and there. As you can see, it just gives little patches, and whatever configurations you put these in will just change over time, because you'll just move these around. And as you can see, these ones are really hardened off because they've had lots of paint on in the past. That's not a problem, because that means that they just end up as being something you can use time and time again. And they just build up that paint on there. Possibly eventually that's going to become one solid piece if I don't actually start moving it around. I'm just trying to cover up some of the copper, purely because I want it to be more of a background thing. It's again that push and pull that I talk about. Right, I think we're done. Right, let me just move this out the way before I put my hand in it, because I'm in great danger of doing that. And I think that's a success. I like that. That's very bright and fresh. It still looks very nautical to me. Not that that's a problem in the slightest. I like nautical. So it's a good colour combination. Annie, I hope that's what you meant by not using any stencils. Yes, I did make myself a stencil, but it wasn't a store-bought stencil. It was something anyone could have done. As you can see, I just cut holes in paper. I did mention I might have done a heart. I mean, I know this is very much 101 crafting, but if I took a piece of paper and I cut a heart shape out of it, there you go. I could have come in and done the same there through a heart shape if I wanted to add maybe a pink heart to this or something, because I did want to use Valentine's Day. So I'm done. So this is the February challenge. As I said, I will do my best to get the link to this in the description box, a link to the PM Artist Studio Facebook group, which is Makers of Mixed Media Art and Artist. They're a very supportive group. They're lovely people. I'm on there. Lots of well-known names are on there in the YouTube community and in the artistic community. So make sure you pop over. I'd love you to sign up. They do lives 3 times a week on YouTube. So if you went and searched the YouTube channel, search for PM Artist Studio, they'd come up. They do a YouTube live on a Tuesday, a Thursday and a Sunday. Now it depends on where you are in the world as to what time it will be, so I'm not going to say what time it is. It's usually about 2 hours long. It's informative, it's creative. I try my darndest to be in the comments or in the live stream as much as I can, so if you want to say hello to me, just pop on and say, Ceri, are you here? And I'll always say a hello back if I see it pop up. So I think that's it, guys. So let's expose my messy mat. Yay! So there you go. Okay, I'm going to sign off and I'll see you later in the month, and I'll see you in March for another one of these challenges. So I'm Ceri the Crafter. That's Ceri the Crafter. Until next time. Bye-bye now.